I want to touch on who does God want to be president? Who does God want to be president? I want to teach on this, and many people are going to get upset, but I want to teach on this from a biblical point of view. Because as we're about 6 months away, 5 months away from the election, I want to give you who I believe and who I know, not just believe, but know who God's will is for him to be back in office, and that's Donald Trump. You know, this is not about liking Donald Trump. This is not about him as a person. This is about, for instance, Cyrus in the Bible. And I'm going to break it down biblically. Why biblically this is true, but also what the Lord showed me. You can get more about this in my book, The Messengers. But if you look at the Bible, God has raised up kings and used kings that have not always been integral in every area. We're not electing a pastor. We're electing a politician. We're electing somebody that is called to govern in a godly way, to govern in a way that would allow the church to continue to preach the gospel without hindrance, govern in the way where the laws of God and abominations are not being pushed and passed. And if you look at Joe Biden, whether you like him or you think he's a bad guy or you think he's a good guy, if you just look at the things Joe Biden has done over his last 3 years, whether it's pushed the transgender agenda, we know he's pushed it further than any president, even Obama. He pushed it further than Obama. He's tried to push for take away. He's tried to force churches to push that agenda on churches. If it wasn't for the conservatives in the House, they would have passed bills that would have literally taken away the speech of the church. We also have abortion. Now, it's not about what you believe, it's about what God says. And God, the same practice that we have on abortion with Moloch in the Old Testament, they had these statues. They had the statue, and half of it was a man, and half of it, they had these statues, and they would put fire in the belly, and they would throw their babies into it. That was their way of aborting babies. And God called that an abomination and an evil, and he judged because of that. So we have judgment for the transgenderism stuff with the Sodom and Gomorrah, and it's not a mess of hate. This is just biblical. And then we have abortion. These are two things that the current administration pushes. Now, if you look at Trump, he's pro-life. He was one of the first presidents to actually walk in the pro-life. That's a big deal to God. It might not even be a big deal to you. It should be if you're a believer. If you're a Christian, it should be a big deal to you. The second thing is he's okay with the LBGT movement. He's not against it, but he does not push it. He said he would ban puberty blockers with children. He would do all these things to stop that agenda from being pushed. On top of that, he was the most pro-friendly to the church we've seen with the Johnson Amendment, and he would invite pastors. I know pastors that were invited to the White House. We know that he had Paula White as his spiritual aide. We know he's close with Franklin Graham, and that he often talks about God. You know, the White House, we know that Joe Biden for Easter wouldn't allow any type of God stuff to be done on Easter. Instead, he called it the Transgender Awareness. He on Easter, this wicked man said that it was transgender. So if you think that God prefers a person that would say, and then Trump on resurrection on Easter said it gave glory to Jesus. So you got to get out of politics and get in the spirit. So most people are too political. They grew up a Democrat, they grew up a Republican, they grew up whatever they are, and then they come into the kingdom and they put that on. No, you have to get out of that and get in the spirit and say, you don't have to like them. You could think that they are not a good person, but who is going to lead in a way that will not bring the further judgment, because we're already in the midst of judgment on our country. I talk about this fully in my book, The Messengers. It's on Amazon right now. You can get it for about $5. But I believe and I know that God has raised up Donald Trump. I'm not saying he'll win, because I believe they'll try to cheat again like they did in 2020, the 2020 election. But I believe that it's God's desire. It's not a prediction for Trump to be back in office. And we must pray for God's will to be done on earth as it is in heaven. Today is the debates, and that's why I brought this message ahead of these debates. And I believe I stand with Trump, and I know the real prophets that I know do, and the real people of God and intercessors are praying for Donald Trump to be victorious.